Hey. Welcome to another session of Sincerely Stan, where we talk about things that are important to you. All right, let's make sure this is off. Um, Today's letter um, is a tad bit interesting. And like so many of the others, it's commonplace too. I really want to thank the brothers and sisters that write in and have the courage to write in, to express what's going on with them so that we can share it with everyone else and try to get a bead on our own feelings and get other people's perspectives on situations that they're going through. So I applaud you guys for that. Thank you. Keep the letters coming. I appreciate it. This letter is entitled Successful and Alone Sista. This young lady here is having problems with trying to get and to maintain a positive relationship. And so she wrote in and expressed her concerns, and we're going to share it here today so that we can all get an inside view, and perhaps it can help us in some things that we may be going through too. Let's go. Dear Stan, I actually don't even know how I got to the point with all this that I feel like I need to write into a podcast to a guy that calls himself Sincerely Stan. But I got something going on that is bothering the hell out of me, so I guess I'm just grasping at straws right now. So here it goes, Stan. We're ready. I'm a 47-year-old, 2-degree educated black woman. I've done well for myself. I have a wonderful career. I own a fabulous home. I have a luxury vehicle. I've made investments that have turned out good for me. My life is fantastic except for one thing. I have no man. I travel quite a bit for work, but there are generally predominantly more men than women in my circle. Just not many that I'd be interested in. I've been on a few dating sites that have produced a whole galaxy of men at my disposal. The problem is there seems to be something with each and every one that I meet. I'll be honest, I have some standards. I want a guy who has a good job, who is good looking, fit, emotionally stable, a family man, a man who is good in the bed. The guys I meet seem to want to bypass the dating that leads to courting, that leads to a relationship, and go straight for the jugular. Boom. And I'm not talking spring chickens here. I'm talking about rusty grown men. Those are her words, not mine. Okay. She goes on to say that I have so many thoughts about this, but we'll get to that. Good conversation is at a premium these days. Guys are even struggling with having an interesting conversation. The basics are missing in most. I've been told by some that my standards are too high. I've been told by others that I shouldn't feel guilty about having standards, so I'm kind of confused as to the real story. Can you help? All right. When I read this particular letter, I had, because of experiences I've had, friends have had, things that are current in society today, especially for women of color, seeking, a suitable mate. This really stuck out. And again, I just really appreciate the sister for writing in and having the courage to explain how she feels. Let me start by saying that I'm just thankful for anybody that thinks enough of me. This podcast is new. This is our 7th episode. For anybody that cares enough about me to write in and to ask my pitiful opinion, I thank you. I just want you to know that our show is always focused on the sincerely part. So now let's take a look at what we got. Let me say this. I got to do a little advertising. If you'd like the content, if you'd like what's going on here on this channel, subscribe. You'll see the subscribe button down below. If you hit the bell notifications every time we do something, you'll know. If not, it'll just come up on your feed occasionally. There's going to be some good stuff. We're going to change the whole platform. I can't give away anything, but we're going to really engage and try to make this a social platform that really has some value for people. So, um, as I was reading, this letter, by the time I got to where you shared your personal accomplishments, I wonder if I didn't hear a sense of pride, as though your credentials were the validity for making you eligible bachelorette. I would have liked to have heard more things about you were family oriented. I would like to have heard things about your character, specifically about your heartbeat, about things that are important to you internally regarding finding a mate. I heard a lot of exterior stuff. So that threw up a little flag for me. I don't know if it came all the way up, but it was definitely a flag. So um, I just want to let you know that I think that you should actually consider, are those the things that make you feel like you're qualified for a quality relationship because of the personal accomplishments that you've made? Now, certainly that makes anybody a good mate. Well, in a good arena, that puts you in the arena to be able to be classified as a good mate. But now, whether we're a good mate or not, I don't think that the material things that we have are very indicative of, how we manage an intimate relationship. So I just want to throw that out there for a minute. I noticed that you mentioned that you travel for work a lot, and there's a plethora of men out there, but not ones that attract your attention. When I read that, the flag went up even a little further. Listen to me, I'm on your side. I'm not saying these things to chop you down. I want to build you up, and how I would endeavor to do this is to mention the things that, because I'm on the outside looking in, mention the things to you that I've seen based off of what you've communicated to me, to see if we can get a beat on where you may be at. I think that a consideration for you would be in the circles that you're in currently, and you said there's a plethora of men, and I'm assuming they have the social graces that you talked about. You said the communication was a problem, and certainly these guys communicate, at least for work. So they, would at least check that box. So I was wondering, maybe have you ruled out meeting someone in your travels, or someone somewhere that you could potentially look to establish a relationship with? So don't discount that. Don't discount a work relationship. Maybe not somebody you work with directly, but don't discount the fact that you could perhaps meet someone at work. So another consideration, I think, in the scheme of things is, have you ever really asked yourself, why is there? You said that there's never a suitable gentleman for you. Well, how can that be? Either something is misfiring if there is never even an indication of someone, and I don't know if that's what you meant, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but if there's never ever someone that you could at least get into, exclusivity type of relationship and see if things can work out. It sounds like to me that you're ruling out a lot of things when you shouldn't be. But you know what? Let's not do that, because we're going to get to that anyway here in my notes. So we'll address that. But what I wanted to say is, to ask rather, was, do you engage in social events at work? Do you actually go to some of these functions that people have when they're doing these traveling? In corporate America, they have functions quite a bit. Do you partake in that? Do you partake in community stuff? Do you partake in things that are going on in your city? You have to be available. And that's what the problem is with all of us these days. No, not all of us, but a great many of us, is we don't make ourselves available. Somebody has to know that you exist and that you're the wonderful woman that you believe that you are, in order for you to get an opportunity to meet somebody that can potentially be, your forever mate, your BFF. So you got to be out there. Do other social circles? Do you do other social circles other than work? Do you go to the gym, or do you are you in any kind of clubs, or is anything like that? Any kind of groups that you can a singles group for that matter. Do you evolve to get involved in nonprofit stuff? A lot of good people, give their time and their money and, their talents to those that are disadvantaged. So maybe that's a way for you if you have that kind of heart. I think that sometimes we can be, just because we're present in a moment at work, at a party, or whatever the case may be, just because we're present doesn't mean we're engaged. Sometimes we can play the peripherals and not really get in the mix. You wrote in and said that you concerned because you don't have a mate, so obviously you're on the hunt. At least you're eligible, bachelorette. So if that be the case, and I'm not prescribing for my Christian friends that a woman should chase a man. I'm not saying that should or should not be the case. That's not the platform for this, and my personal opinion doesn't even matter. What I'm saying is that if you've written in here and you're actually looking for a mate, you seem like you're actively looking for a mate, considering being with someone, then you have to be in circles that will allow you to have exposure and allow you to be exposed to quality men. Hopefully you go into places where you guys have similar interests and see if you can find a quality man. So you have to be in the mix. And even though you're somewhere, you make sure you're not detached, and make sure that your heart is available to receive someone, and make sure that you are actually in the moment. I'm here, I came, I saw, and I conquered. Let that be your mission. Now, I'm not saying that you should run out and run behind every man, obviously, that you see, but I'm saying that there's nothing wrong with you having the persona, the stance, the position of heart and mind that I'm actually looking to meet someone. There's nothing wrong with that. You shouldn't feel guilty in the least bit about it. When we're out, everything, maybe your body language is wrong. Maybe your smiles are not free. Maybe you need to stare at someone that you find at least physically attractive a moment longer. Guys know, you look at it a moment longer, flip the hair, or, however you do, and listen, that works. And we're like, okay. So appearing friendly, in other words, doing the things that I just mentioned, being friendly and engaging, does not mean easy. And see, this is where a lot of people confuse one for the other. Engaging means that I'm in not pursuit, because that word's going to be taken wrong, but I'm available for whatever it is that I want to be available for. So being friendly, being gregarious, being outgoing, smiling, flipping your hair, giving someone a little stare a moment longer than you normally would to show some interest, and a warm smile. These things work, So I wrote here, exhibit signs of being a tad bit flirtatious. Some of the things that I mentioned about the stare a little longer, this is being flirtatious. Turning your head a certain way for someone that you may be interested in, they've piqued your interest. These are things that would let guys know that at least she's available. Now, whether you're deemed as easy or whatever that case may be, that will be determined after the initial meeting. But to get the meeting, you have to be in the mix, be out there, be in the mix, and show yourself friendly. And I just want to believe that works. I want to believe that it works. When I looked over your checkbox, admirable is the word that came to my mind. I'm not trying to be facetious, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with, there's nothing wrong with having standards. I mean, that's not something you even have to be guilty of. We all have standards, or we should, of some sort, whether it's relational or whatever it may be. I think the thing for you is to consider, and I picked this up from speaking to a female friend, is to consider if this is just a fun fantasy list, the one that you described to me, to quote my friend, if I could build a man, this is what he would look like. Money, fit, well endowed, boom. I mean, you got everything going on. Is this one of those kind of fun fact lists that you can kind of modify as you go along? Is that what this is? Or is this an etched in stone list that's inflexible and may be unrealistically the package that a guy that would be the best guy for you would come in? You have to be willing to not consider a gentleman ineligible just because he doesn't check every box. Now, I know there's some things that are deal breakers, you know. If you're sleeping under a bridge, and I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm just saying, if you don't even have anywhere to live, then obviously you need to get that together before you get into a relationship. But I mean, anything short of extreme, make sure that you're not missing your Prince Charming by being a little bit too, rigid in your checklist. Be a little bit more flexible. Essentially, the most important things are individuals' hearts. I mean, I know love doesn't pay bills, but if there's good heart and there's good vibes from someone that interests your sensibilities, that's a beginning of something that you have in common, because commonalities are important. So do a little reflection and ask yourself, if you're going into relationships with a man having to crawl out of the basement to show themselves worthy, that's not right. Everybody has to start with a level playing field. How would you like it if somebody, all of their burden, all of their mishaps, that baggage, as they call it, they put it on you? You wouldn't like that, obviously, and it may have happened to you, because it certainly happened to me, and I've certainly done it to others. So it's a common phenomenon. So just make sure that you're not placing gentlemen in the basement, and they have to come, from a sub-floor position in order to show themselves worthy. Give them the benefit of the doubt until they show themselves otherwise. So I'm not saying that you're not doing this. I'm saying that just make sure that you are. And lastly, I have, and I debated whether I was even going to say this or not. Ultimately, look at it this way. We can be in relationships that are totally comfortable in one arena and that we just despise in another. We have husbands or wives that have good jobs, but they're cheap. We have husbands or wives who, commit adultery against us and they're unfaithful. I mean, when we get into relationship is just like anything else. It's a matter of a chance. You're rolling the dice. You're saying, I see enough about you to pique my interest, to move forward so that I can confirm one way or the other whether you're somebody that I can take up with. And that's it. It's simple. All this stuff about what we have and so forth and so on, that's irrelevant, because there are many very wealthy people that are miserable in miserable relationships, as you well know. There are many very wealthy people that can't stay married. You didn't say whether you had been married before or not. So there's all types of phenomena, but essentially it's all about matters of the heart. Are you willing to be compromised, to be flexible enough to be able to get along with someone? Because the truth of the matter is, when men are from Mars, women are from Venus, this person may be this age, this person is this age. You were born in Ohio and I was born in Harlem. I mean, there's so many differences, so many variables that come together when people are in relationships. It takes a willing heart. It takes a compromise. It takes you actually being concerned with the person of your interest. You have to be concerned about I'm not saying you specifically, I'm just saying in general, we have to be concerned about the other person as well as we are ourselves. So if that's not the case and it's really all about us, then we're not going to extract, or we can attract is what I meant to say. We can attract that person, but we won't recognize them. So when we say we want a good mate, we have to make sure that we're externally and internally in a good position to identify and to deal with that person if they should so come into our lives. That's all I got. That's all I got today. This is kind of cut and dry. The things that I'm saying, you probably know. You seem like a very intelligent woman. I'd like you to follow up with us. You go down below and you'll see our Blog Talk Radio show. It's an audio show. You can actually call in and we can discuss this further if you'd like. You don't have to identify yourself. You can just call in and be I'm the person that wrote the letter that starts off successful and lonely sister, you know. Stay in touch and follow up with us so that we can hear, you know, based on this information, based on what you decided to do, how things turned out, because that's what we want. We want this advice to carry people somewhere, and hopefully to a good place. So I'd love you to call in at the Blog Talk across the screen or right back in sincerelystan.com and follow up that way. We'd love to hear from you. We thank you and applaud you for writing in the first place. I think this is something that you can get a bead on. I just think that it calls for a little bit more thought. And I will say this. You mentioned this, the people in your life. Some thought that, you know, your standards were too high and some thought they didn't. Let me say this. Take everybody's personal opinion with a grain of salt. Consider the source and also consider the quality of what it is that they're saying. It doesn't have to be something you like, but it is a quality answer. Is it someone that is really concerned about your well-being? I believe in getting advice. The Bible talks about the one that doesn't take advice is a fool. So yes, we certainly should take people's advice, but we should also not allow that to be our only resource. We have to dig in. We have to take stock of who we are, and we have to take stock of who the person is. And again, if you look at the heartbeat of an individual, and if that heartbeat touches your sensibilities in a way that brings you some delight, then I think that you should give this person at least the opportunity to be able to show themselves worthy. So again, that's all that I got. To my friends, family, God loves you. And guess what? I do too. See you next time.